Welcome, everybody, to the NCAA football show. This is week 13, powered by SportsMemo TV. Make sure you get to the channel over at YouTube and subscribe and click that bell because then you'll be notified of every single show we do. Welcome to the show, Chuck and Jesse. We're coming off a 5-2 week. Thanks to Mr. Chuck or Dr. Chuck. I apologize. He went 3-0. Jesse and I held him back. We went 1-1, but our wins were pretty good. And maybe that one win we can talk about with Illinois later in the show because that was the ultimate emotional roller coaster because we actually bet these games, guys. I mean, and when sometimes it does get a little emotional and disappointing when you're seeing it live. But let's get right to it here. And this wouldn't be the show in 2021 if I wasn't talking about the Big Ten in at least two of the three games I'm going to be talking about today. Penn State is at East Lansing to take on Michigan State. Temperature will be a little on the chilly side, but football weatherish at 33 degrees. Point spread is pick 'em, over under 51.5. And the pick 'em, I paused there because that's immediately got my attention. I ran the models. I am on Penn State. I'm not a homer, but I have played Penn State. This will be the fourth time. And this will be a premium pick. This is going to my clients. But why in the world, guys and gals, Jesse and Dr. Chuck, why is Penn State not ranked on the road against a team as good as Michigan State that would be ranked number 7 in the nation, and Michigan State's not favored? That is telling you something. Penn State 4-4 in the Big Ten. They're 7-4 overall. A win here probably gets them possibly to a New Year's Day bowl. It's certainly not going to hurt their cause. So I'm on Penn State. I'll give you a little bit of background here. James Franklin, 30-11 against the spread off a win against a conference rival. 42-19 against the number after one or more consecutive straight-up wins. 15-6 after a game where they committed no turnovers. 9-4 in road games the last 3 seasons. So James Franklin has a pretty good track record coming into this game. And honestly, what does Michigan State have to play for at this point? Obviously they have a lot to play for, but the air is out of the balloon, so to speak. And if you bet against these home underdogs like Michigan State, that are a good offense, averaging 400 or more yards of total offense per game, coming off a game where they were kind of humiliated and got outgained 125 or more total yards. That road team is 66-30 against them over the last 5 years for 69% winners. So I am on Penn State. Right now it's pick'em, so there'd be absolutely no reason to take the money line, but I'm on Penn State as a 4% best bet. Eastern Standard Time, ESPN2, Tulsa 5-6, 4-3 in the American Athletic Conference, taking on an 8-3 SMU team. SMU minus 6.5, and the over-under is 62. So where are you going to take us for the best bet on this game, Chuck?
Well, yeah. So, like you said, last week we got a 3-0 slate, so that was pretty excellent. And I don't need to belabor this point too much. Sonny Dykes has a foot out the door, so I think his team is going to really rally behind him. And what they probably understand is the end of that run. Since he took over in 2018 as a home favorite, they're 12-3 against the spread and 15 times. They are the team that just in the nick of time gave Luke Fickell and the Bearcats their mojo back as Oregon lost, and the Bearcats will probably be in the top 4 this week. And they know that coming off of that, they started off the season so great, 7-0, lost 3 of their last 4, but they get to finish this season as they're not going to the championship game against Tulsa. Tulsa is a very average team against the number. They are right at about 5.5 losses if they were an average team, which puts them right on it. The SMU offense is pretty excellent, and I had this at 10-12, and getting it at 6.5 is just a great bargain. They're at home, and this is how the Sonny Dykes in Southern Methodist era probably ends, with I think a game that is kind of a blowout near the end.
Great job there, Chuck. I like the play. I like the breakdown. Now we're going to go over to Jesse Schule, and we are going to talk about the Indiana Hoosiers. See, he likes the Big Ten too. So 3:30 start here. Fox Sports 1. Everybody will be watching the Penn State game, of course. But seriously, Indiana 2-9. What fall off the cliff, so to speak, from last year and all that magic that they had. Their head coach is still one of the master motivators of any sport. I have the immense admiration for that man. However, at 2-9 and 0-8 in the Big Ten, they are a 15-point road underdog at Purdue. Purdue's 7-4. One of the giant slayers in the Big Ten this year. 5-3 conference record. Over/unders 50.5. Tell us where the best bet is in this matchup, Jesse.
Well, John, like you said, Indiana is a mess right now. And my man Teddy tells me you got to fade the dead. Indiana is the dead. They got some quarterback problems. They're down to third and fourth string quarterbacks. They failed to cover in 7 of their last 10 at Purdue. They failed to cover in 4 straight head-to-head against Purdue. Purdue bounced back nicely after getting the living daylights knocked out of them at Ohio State. They beat Northwestern pretty handily last week. They wrap up the season at home. They look pretty strong against an opponent that I don't think is going to be able to compete here. Indiana has lost 7 straight. They're 0-8 in the Big Ten. There's just no reason. This line at 15 looks like it should be a little higher. This looks like a win by 20 plus for Purdue.
I like it. We have a bet on Purdue. Moving on to my second play. And the reason I picked 3 games is because I'm the host and Chuck went 3-0. So I figured if I'm the host, I will go 3-0 this week. But seriously, 2-1 would be nice too. But in this game, we have Wisconsin, number 15, going on the road to Minnesota. Minnesota 7-4, 5-3 Big Ten conference record. They made some noises this season for sure. Got a lot of people's attention. It's that being played at the Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Wisconsin is suddenly 8-3, 6-2 in the Big Ten. A win puts them into the Big Ten Conference Championship. They are favored by 6.5. Over/under. Of course, when Wisconsin plays, it's going to be 40 or south. This one is 39. And I am on Wisconsin. And I think Wisconsin is actually becoming a dangerous team. Whether they could take on an Ohio State, assuming that they beat Michigan. Michigan hasn't won. Jim Harbaugh's lost 5 consecutive since he's been the coach of Michigan to Ohio State. 4 of them by massive numbers. And the way Ohio State's playing right now, you got to think that they're probably going to take care of business at Michigan this Saturday. But that's a different game. So Wisconsin had 228 yards and 3 touchdowns from the running back Allen, and it included a 53-yarder with 3 minutes and 50 seconds remaining that allowed Wisconsin to get away from Nebraska with a 35-28 win. Now, Coach Christ is 13-4 against the number after covering the spread 3 of the last 4 games. He's 21-10 against the spread in road games. And like I said, Wisconsin will clinch its 4th Big Ten championship appearance in the last 6 years if it wins this game at Minnesota. And Wisconsin's tied with Iowa, who's number 18. I don't understand that when Penn State's not ranked. For first place in the West, but they own the tiebreaker because they beat Iowa. And they beat them badly, 27-7. When their defense, and I'm talking about the Wisconsin defense, holds an opponent to 150 or fewer passing yards, they are 5-1 against the number this year, 10-3 the last 3 seasons, and 73-30 over the last 20. So I am taking Wisconsin minus the 6.5, and I truly believe this is a game that it may not be like the Ohio State call I made last week, but I don't think this game's going to even be close. So there you have it. We're going to move on to Dr. Chuck here. And Dr. Chuck's second game, as soon as I get the notes up for his second game, we got Kentucky, 7:30. This is a nighttime game on Saturday, ESPN2. Kentucky 8-3 against Louisville, 6-5. Cardinal Stadium, Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville favored at home by 2.5. Over under 57. Kentucky's had a pretty good year, Chuck, but you think Louisville can take them down?
Yeah, so, I had a tough time coming up with what I wanted to put out there following my 3-0 week. Discussed some really disgusting dogs like Temple, taking on hosting Navy to finish the season. Some confusing dogs like USC getting a touchdown. And as always, there's a bunch of Conference USA totals, as you probably imagine, that I could have gone for here. But there's a nice spot where in the month of November, late in the season, home favorites with a rest advantage are covering at a 28-19 clip in the last 3 seasons. But that's covering, and the average on that, just raw numbers, is -12 the team would be laying. Louisville is barely laying home field advantage, probably not even, but if you get it now at the -2, -2.5, and winning the game, they're 33-10 in that spot with the rest advantage. Kentucky, build themselves as a really great defense, and they were a great defense to start the season, knocked off Florida, which we now realize is not a big deal, and you have to take that into account here. And in fact, the 3.4 yards per rush they were allowing early in the season has ballooned up to 4.2, which doesn't sound like a lot, but Malik Cunningham is coming off of that game. Louisville's put up 103 points in their last 2 wins over Syracuse and Duke, and those aren't the great defenses, and they are switching to an SEC opponent this weekend. But they're at home. We talked about Sonny Dykes with one foot out the door. That was Scott Satterfield last year. He's righted the ship a little bit, despite alienating the entire city of Louisville at the beginning of this season. And I just think they finish off pretty strong here. Malik should have his way with the Kentucky defense that's worsening by the week. And, we're really just picking a winner here. So if you wanted to be more safe, take the money line or lay the short spread. But I think Louisville ends Kentucky's season with a loss.
And that's a great breakdown. Again, Chuck, I agree with that recommendation for the money line, especially if that line drops down to 2. It could drop down to 1.5, then no choice but to take the money line in that game because we think they're going to win. And we're going to move over to Jesse Schule for his second pick of the night. And this is a game that tradition I used to love to watch. The late Bobby Bowden, man alive, Steve Spurrier, they used to go toe-to-toe. And it was just wonderful entertainment. This is at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, Gainesville, Florida, which means that we have Florida State playing Florida. What is really incredible about this matchup is that they both are 5-6. A win makes them bowl eligible. Whether Florida, with the mess that they are right now, they just fired Dan Mullins. And boy, Al Davis used to say, just win, baby. Steinbrenner used to say, what have you done for me lately? Those two combined is what happened to Mullen. It's only been 2 months since he went toe-to-toe with Alabama, that was ranked number 1, had a chance to knock them off, gained an incredible amount of rushing yards against that defense. It's not surprising that he was fired because he's lost 6 of the last 9. But it just goes to show how the standard of success at some of these programs is so high that a guy, head coach like the talent of a Dan Mullins, is fired, just like on the spot. But Jesse, I know you see some opportunity here, and I have a funny feeling it's going to be on those Florida State Seminoles to take advantage of the situation that Florida finds themselves in. Am I right or wrong?
You're absolutely right, John. You all know I like giving out underdogs, big dogs, and I couldn't really find any big dogs that I love this week, so you'll have to settle for Florida State plus 2.5. You all might remember that back in October, I gave out a free pick on Florida State, getting 18.5 points at North Carolina, and those of you who got on that will remember they won that game outright. Their quarterback, Jordan Travis, scored 5 touchdowns in that game, 3 passing and 2 rushing. He's been on a tear lately. In his last 6 starts, he's 5-1, and he's thrown for 10 touchdowns with just 1 interception, and he has 5 rushing TDs. Florida State's only lost 2 games since then. One of those was a road game at Clemson. You wouldn't expect them to win that one anyways. The other one, Travis, he couldn't start, so Mackenzie Milton was the starter, and they came up short against NC State. Well, Travis is back. He's playing really well. The Gators, like you mentioned, there's something wrong with Florida. It's cost Dan Mullen his job, and all sorts of problems for the Gators. FSU is just playing good football right now, and I like their chances of winning this big game.
I like it too. I think that's how Florida State will end their season. And now for the seventh and final bet. We go to yours truly, and I am looking squarely at the upset of the week. And from time to time, I've been bold enough to call these things. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but when I'm right, like Texas A&M over Alabama or LSU last year, going to the Swamp as a 24-point underdog and winning, I think I found another one. And by the way, guys and gals, there's been 19 games this year with underdogs in college football of 17.5 or more points that won the game. It happens a lot. In the NFL, you're always told that the pros always take the double-digit dog, like the Giants are tonight. That always doesn't work either. But in college football, there are a lot of dogs that if you identify that situation, you truly never know when they're going to happen. I don't know if East Carolina is going to pull off the upset against Cincinnati, but it's there. And I really think getting this many points is just a great opportunity. The Pirates' the last 3 seasons are 5-1 against the numbers of double-digit dog of 10.5 to 21 points. They are 5-2 as a dog this season. They're 6-1 against the spread against conference opponents. And winning record teams, the last 3 seasons, they are 8-1. I like this team. I think they are going to give Cincinnati a big scare and possibly more. Betting angle for our show this week is you're going to play on home teams after winning 3 or more consecutive games and facing a ranked opponent on a 5 or more game winning streak after week number 9. 81% against the spread, guys. 36-1. That's a 30-6-1. Over the last 3 seasons, it's gone 11-4. Prior to that, it was actually ran off a streak of 15 in a row. So 2 years ago, this angle was 15-0 over the last 3 seasons. So this one has really stood the test of time. Lastly, 65% of these games covered the spread by more than 7 points. Now, East Carolina is a double-digit dog here, so 7 points doesn't really bring in the money line here. But I think I would sprinkle, half a unit on the money line here with East Carolina and the Pirates. Hope you guys like that one. And that will conclude our Week 13 show. It's awful sad to know that next week that's the last week of the regular season. But then we got the bowl games. And then we got the NFL going down to the wire. And the NFL playoffs. What could be better? College basketball will be heating up. The NBA is heating up. Speaking of heating up, what in the world happened in that Lakers game last night? We'll have to talk about that later. So we thank you for watching this show. We hope you liked these 7 picks. We did well last week. Just remember to bet with your head and not over it. And for Jesse Schule, Dr. Chuck, and myself, may all the wins be yours.
Oh, wait.